Lila Balisky.
Hi.
Can you tell me your full name?
Lila Willard Propst Balisky.
Okay, so Probst is your maiden name.
Right.
Where were you born?
I was born in Philadelphia,
What year?
1941.
What was your childhood like?
Well, until I was about 5, we lived in Philadelphia. My dad was gone a lot because he was a doctor in the U.S. Army during World War II.
Okay.
I remember being so scared when he was going to come home because I hadn't remembered him
Wow.
when I was a baby, and it was so exciting to have Daddy coming.
You remember when he came home?
I remember it very, very well.
Wow. Where was he posted during the war?
Oh, all across North Africa, up into Asia.
Okay.
He was a medical doctor in the Army, yeah.
Okay. When did you become a Christian?
Dad or me?
You.
When I was 5.
Okay. You remember it?
I still remember very well. I was sitting on my mom's lap, and it was bedtime, and she asked me if I would like to receive Jesus into my heart, and I said yes. It's a very vivid memory to me.
Okay.
And that's been a joy to follow Christ since then.
Awesome. Where did you go to school?
I went to Rift Valley Academy at Kajabi, Kenya, where we lived. It was a missionary kids school.
So you were born in Philadelphia, and then you went...
And went when I was 5
Okay.
with the family.
Okay.
I think we were the first TWA flight across the ocean or something.
Oh, no way.
I would have to check that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite an adventure. And we stopped in Cairo on their busy, hot streets. And I remember saying to Mom and Dad, if Africa's like this, I want to go home.
Oh, really?
But I loved Kenya. I grew up there through high school,
Okay.
graduated from RVA.
And your parents were missionaries there?
Yeah.
Your dad was involved with like a medical mission over there?
Somewhat with other missions, but
Okay.
he had to travel around to clinics to make them feasible to operate under the government. They
Okay.
had to be visited by a doctor, so he was gone quite a bit.
Are you glad that you grew up in Kenya?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
It was a wonderful adventure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very scenic.
Very scenic. We lived right at the top of the Rift Valley, looking out over the Great Rift Valley Plains.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. We went to the Congo. My mom's sister was a missionary there. We traveled around. Yes, it was a very rich childhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you went to school there. You grew up there. Where did you go after that?
I went through grade 12 at Rift Valley, and then I went to Wheaton College.
Okay.
I worked for a year and then went to Wheaton College, where I met my wonderful husband.
Okay. Tell me about that.
We were in the same literature class together, and I found the boys at college sort of slap-happy, foolish types. At least that was my opinion.
Yeah.
Just out for fun,
Okay.
crazy. But then I saw this guy that was much more orderly and sophisticated and dressed nicely, and then we were in the same literature class, and I began to look at him, and we fell deeply in love.
You did, eh?
And still are.
That's so awesome.
But it brought me up to Canada. Oh my, that was a new world for me.
You guys came up later in life, but so from Wheaton, where did you guys go?
Oh, then by the time I graduated, Paul had finished Wheaton and was out at Fuller Seminary.
Yeah.
So we went, both of us, and lived in Pasadena, where I taught high school.
Okay. And your education and training was teaching?
Yeah.
And specifically
English.
English. Okay.
And teaching literature was my actual major.
Okay.
But then we lived in California for 2 years, and then came up here
Okay.
to his home
Yeah.
and taught at PRBI for 1 year.
One
year.
Okay. And then from there, you went to...
Then we got ready to go to Ethiopia, yeah.
Okay, 40 years in Ethiopia. Wow. Tell me about that.
What, going or 40 years?
I don't know. Why did you guys decide on Ethiopia?
We decided on Ethiopia because Paul had several brothers and sisters in Nigeria with SIM, and I had relatives in Kenya with AIM,
Yeah.
and we decided we want to strike off on our own and not have the family history bubbling up behind us all the time.
Fair enough.
So the mission asked me, what country would you like? And they suggested, or I said, I have to go to a place that's not too hot. My feet swell so. So then they offered Ethiopia, and we both said Ethiopia, that's fine.
Nice.
I mean, that was just in a few words, and our course of life was set.
Wow.
But it turned out to be a marvelous 40 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when you went there, you had a child, right?
We had one boy, Alan.
And then you had two more.
Two more over there, the first term, yeah.
What was it like raising kids as a missionary in Ethiopia?
Well, they were wonderful boys, still are. The hardest thing in my life was sending them off to boarding school.
Yeah.
But it was the only feasible thing to do, really. And so we did it. We went up to visit them as often as we could. We gave them wonderful holidays in between, took family trips to lakes and went to Tanzania even one time in a little car. It was quite a trip.
Nice.
But it took us into a whole new part of Africa to
Nice.
visit my sister, who was a missionary there. Yeah, all 6 of my brothers and sisters, except one, were missionaries overseas.
Okay.
I think it was our heritage.
Wow.
But we didn't just go because we liked being overseas, but I had a real passion to go with Paul and assist the church growing in Ethiopia.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a wonderful career.
And at some point, you guys went back to, it was Scotland or London?
Oh, yes, Paul did a doctorate in Scotland.
Yeah.
So then I decided, why should I sit at home all day? So I did a master's at
Nice.
Aberdeen.
Nice.
And then later he was working on a doctorate. Was that in Scotland too? Yeah. And so then I decided I'd do a doctorate too. Well, that was after we retired.
Why not, right?
Why not?
And you've written a book?
I've written a book. This was my doctoral thesis, The Songs of Tesfaye Gabiso,
Okay.
who was one of Ethiopia's most famous Christian singers.
Okay.
And he worked for us as a little boy.
Wow.
He used to help take care of the kids
Yeah.
when he was in grade school. And he loved listening to the radio to hear the Amharic songs.
Yeah.
And he was making songs himself. So one day I said to him, Tesfaye, if you like songs so much, maybe God will use you to become a great singer in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so then I did my doctorate on the meaning of his songs, got them translated all from Amharic into English.
Wow.
And it's a good thing. The Lord was with us. I followed Paul around where he went, sort of did the things he did. Sometimes he says to me, why did you do that? And I said, I'm just following you like a good wife.
But it was a blessed life?
Oh, it was blessed.
Yeah.
Very.
Do you have any regrets?
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets? at
No.
all? No.
None.
Wow. Not one.
I don't think so. Huh?
I don't want to pry if there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Right?
Oh, if I had any one regret, it had to do with my own weight.
Oh.
As a mother and a woman, I kept getting bigger and bigger, heavier. But I've lost a lot of that now. I'm still not thin, but
Okay.
that's really, I think, my biggest regret, that I let myself gain weight at one stage.
Okay. Wow. What advice would you give to young mothers? All your experience with motherhood, especially maybe living abroad. What?
Love your kids with all your heart and give them as many treats as you can. I don't mean monetarily, but in life.
Yeah.
We took them to the Holy Land on one furlough and traveled through Europe on another one and
Yeah.
gave them what I hope was a rich childhood.
Nice.
They even had to cook Tuesday night suppers.
Okay.
And they all three became great cooks to this day.
Right on. Did you guys have any struggles in your marriage?
Struggles?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Playing the piano?
Typing.
Oh, typing, yeah. Which is it, typing or yeah. Yes, we had a struggle over typing because as soon as Paul met me, he had used other women, students at Fuller to type for him and had to pay them. And now he had a girlfriend who could type. And he started having me type. I typed for him. I typed through his school studies. And I finally came to the conclusion one day, let the man learn to type himself. And so I told him, it was getting desperate because I just typed for him all the time. And he, even in Ethiopia, if he's writing a letter to the governor, he'd say, write a letter to the governor and tell him this or that. And then he signs it. Just too much.
And one day you told him that's enough?
I had to tell him because it was too much, just plain too much.
Yeah.
And as a result of his learning to type, he went ahead and did his doctorate. I could have never done all that. And it's all good now. We both type. We both have our typewriters and computers. I would say that was the most tricky little aspect of our marriage.
So large in part, you guys have had a blessed marriage and a blessed life.
Oh, very, very blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you love most about Paul?
Oh, his whole being. He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And that's why you married him?
That's why I married him. He was such a gentleman.
Yeah.
And he was a scholar.
Yeah.
And he had a vision of going to the mission field.
Yeah.
Those three things.
Awesome. What do you think is some of the greater lessons, like what creates a good marriage for people? Mm-hmm. What makes a good marriage?
Oh, I always put in wedding cards that you read a book together at night aloud before you go to sleep.
Wow.
And that's a real shock for some women, but that's what we've done all our married lives. He reads to me every night.
Really?
And get up together and make the bed together.
Oh, wow.
Those two things are vital to a good marriage. I write it in most wedding cards I send.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
because I really think it's, and some girls are so surprised, you know, they sleep in or somebody goes to bed early at night and they don't get along as a couple.
Okay.
We do.
What book is Paul reading to you now?
By George MacDonald. He's our favorite British author.
Okay.
And we keep reading books by him all our lives.
Are they fiction books then?
Some are fiction.
Okay.
Some are sort of his own biography,
Nice.
autobiography.
Is Paul a good orator? Is he?
Oh, yeah.
You fall asleep sometimes.
I don't fall asleep.
What advice would you give to young people?
To follow what God's telling them to do, and don't buck it, but follow it. And they'll have a very fruitful life.
Yeah.
Marry the right guy or right girl to begin with.
Good idea.
Oh, maybe I'm giving you advice.
Well, absolutely. I'm taking all this down, recording it. What do you think about Canada? So you guys, after you went to Ethiopia, you came back here.
Yeah, well, I had come up before we were married, too, just
Yeah.
to see the lay of the land. Oh, it was all a new world to me up here.
Yeah.
And, of course, you were more British than the States, and I had grown up in a British colony, so there was that sort of British-England connection more up here. I learned what farm life was like, And because of our romance, my sister married Paul's brother.
Yeah.
And my dad and mom thought, when they first heard the name Balisky, mom said, "Isn't that sort of a strange name?" And that, I mean, they had never been up here.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having 2 daughters married Baliskys. And Dad and Mom came up to the Balisky farm every summer for the last 16 years of their life when they
Wow.
were retired in Florida.
Yeah.
So this has really become a Propst outpost.
Right? That's awesome. So after 40 years in Ethiopia, you came up here. Do you like it up here? You're settled? You're a Canadian?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And we're settled, and I used to wonder what kind of a house we should live in as retired missionaries. I didn't want to look too fancy or too humble.
Yeah.
But Terry Balisky chose this house for us. It's like a castle compared to what I thought we'd live in.
Yeah.
We're very happy here.
This
And
is a nice house, and this is a beautiful neighborhood too. I love
yeah, it's
Avondale.
lovely.
I think it's awesome.
And we've been back to Ethiopia 5 times since we retired
Wow.
to teach and do various things that we were called for.
Yeah.
So that's been very nice too, to be able to come home here, and
Awesome.
this is real home now.
That's awesome. Any closing thoughts or advice?
To trust the Lord like I did as a 4-year-old in my little way then, but to trust Him all through life
Yeah.
and obey what you know you should be doing.
Yeah.
Find the right partner. Feel accomplished in what you're working on. Yeah.
Okay.
Follow the Lord with a full heart, whole heart.
Awesome. Thank you, Lila.
You're welcome.
I think that was great.